Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Looking Deeper. This is Denise Dana, King Francisco, and I'm here with, as always, once a month, Sandra Herrick. Hey, Sand.
Hey Dana, how you doing?
Good. Looking forward to our conversation tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got a full of meatball and cheese in my mouth. Yum!
Yum. Good stuff.
Happy full moon, everybody. This is a big one.
It's a doozy, isn't it? This massive pink flowering super duper.
It's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
I've been getting shots from all around the world of it, lighting up, and it's like, oh my God, it's on my way. It's on its way.
It's spectacular.
It's spectacular. Is it up at your place yet?
No, it should be here shortly. But right now we're still enjoying the sunshine. But I can certainly feel it. What about you?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When it's this kind of a big thing, it's like, okay, wait a second. If I don't take anything personal, then I can blame it on the moon.
It's a perfect night for moon bathing and high ceremony ritual, candle lighting, all of those good things. Getting fired up about life because it's a Sagittarian full moon.
Yes. Talk about moon bathing. Tonight will be my first night to initiate the moon bathing. I always, when the pool is open, get into it au naturel and swim with the light of the shimmer of the water. It's the most phenomenal thing.
Beautiful.
And it's one of those rituals I have with the pool that allows me to feel its beauty and its, in all due respect, the majesty of water and moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm. So, Sandy, tonight we're talking about embracing spirit, and what you're talking about is embracing the moon, which is also a form of embracing spirit. Why is it that you've made it a practice to, moon bathe when the pool is open? How does that nourish your spirit?
Oh, good God. That's such a great question. And to be able to talk about it from this point of view, meaning that I'm not just a wild woman going out jumping in naked. And, but here's a dog. Here's a wild woman as we speak about it. Hi, Ralph. It's about the caress. And I say that from that deep place of my femininity that really allows in my nakedness, in my feminine, to be caressed by the light, to be caressed by the water, and to be one with the elemental of being held. I float really, really well. I'm buoyant. And I love the ripples of the way the pool catches the moonlight and dances in the pool. And I never really did it when I had a pool as a kid in our backyard. It wasn't something that I noticed. I mean, I was young. We went in bathing. I mean, all sorts of things happened, but it wasn't about bathing in the moonlight. When I came here to New Hampshire and the pool was my pool, that's when the phenomena of looking at the light became intimate. Having the light call me, beckon me, literally, it gives me the shivers to even say it to you, was a very romantic dance in all due respect. And it's amazing how I think it's important for people to know that spirit is romantic, spirit is emotional, and energy is romantic and is emotional. And it's not just if you have somebody to be in the moonlight with that you can be romantic. The moon itself brings our individual being a certain dimension of romance. It allows us to feel we belong, that we're connected. And that's how I do that. I can do it at sunrise or the sunset. I know that. But it's a daily journey. The full moonlight is a captured moment. What about you?
Well, I don't have a pool, but I do have a really great jacuzzi tub.
Yeah, baby.
And, you know, being Scorpios as we are, we love our water.
Yes.
Yeah. And also a clear view to the moon here in the Enchanted Forest, right at the top of the hill here.
Right.
Kelly and Lily have been known to do some moon bathing right there at the hilltop.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But to sit and to bask and to draw the moon down and waft it over, really to just bathe in the rays of the moon or the essence of the moon and all of the beings, the intelligences of the moon is something that I enjoy. Whether I'm in the jacuzzi tub or on a blanket at the tabletop, as I sometimes call it out in the front there.
Right.
But
Right.
to be in the presence of that, or to create an altar when it's a rainy day with the full moon, and build an altar to the moon that corresponds with the moon, is something that I enjoy doing. Because part of the reason I do that is because I don't know about you, Sandy, but when there's a full moon, my dreams
Mm-hmm.
are just astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
And moon bathing, creating an altar to the moon, helps me come to understand some of the dreams that I'm finding myself working through sometimes or experiencing during a full moon.
When I lived in New Mexico, there was one of those times where, now I'm eating my pizza. Excuse me, everybody. The electricity went out in the house before the show about 5 o'clock, and so it was like, well, we're not going to make dinner, and I've got to be in the car if I'm going to do the show, so we might as well get a pizza. And of course, electricity came on just as we got home. So the moon, when I was in New Mexico, was blatant. Here in the East Coast, not everybody gets to see the moon rise. And meaning that you don't have a horizon. It comes up off of the trees. Being in New Mexico, also being in California, being on Santa Barbara beaches, because they have that incredible twist in the beach, is the first time that I was able to see the moon rise on the horizon without any interference and set on the horizon. In New Mexico, because it's such a vast sky, the same thing. The moon came up and it was prehistoric looking. That was literally the first time I ever saw an ancient moon, was in New Mexico. And it's that kind of a thing that the cliffs, the rimrock in New Mexico, has such a jagged, ancient color and shape. And it has that prairie energy to it and that tall, monumental kind of feeling of majesticness. And so to watch, I'm getting goosebumps even telling you this, to watch the moon come up in that type of a landscape, it felt prehistoric. And interestingly enough, in New Mexico, a lot of the bones from the dinosaurs are found. So it's interesting that the energy of the prehistoric energy of moon is still present in the landscape of New Mexico. So I fell in love with the moon as a baby. But the very first time I realized, and I'm sure I told everybody this on here before, when I was about 2 years old, and my mother and father had a Packard, so this would have been 1949, was the first time we would go, drive around or whatnot. I was in the back seat, and the moon, it was the first time I saw the moon follow me.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, yeah, a kid could see the moon, but I'm in the back of the car, and whatever was going on with the full moon, it was following us. It petrified me. I screamed, I wailed. It was like, oh my God, it's whatever I was doing. I had to climb over the seat into my mother's arms, and she had to soothe me. And it was that type of reality that, and I want to say this in that spiritual place of something happens way before we know it. The moon knew me way before I understood the moon. So it's amazing how often the moon finds me. Do you find that the moon finds you, Dana?
It does. It does find me. And as you say, I love the thought that the moon knew you long before you knew the moon.
Absolutely. I can guarantee my soul that information.
That's just outstanding. And yeah, so the antiquity of our soul, the bloodline, the ancientness of our spirituality, of our mysticism, the inner mystic, even in the 2-year-old understands that the moon is magnificent, that it is intelligent, that it is larger than life, looming, right?
It has power.
It has power. And when the modern day mystic, wakes up to those things, sometimes at a young age or an older age, we find ourselves craving a practice or being embraced by the moon or spirit or ritual, ceremony. And we have a longing for it. I have a longing for it. I don't remember a time when I didn't. Like you. And as we get older, having that embrace by spirit is something that we make part of our daily lives. It becomes part of life, not even a practice. It's actually a part of life. And to further that thought, when you and I were talking about our podcast today, understanding that we're living in a time right now where embracing spirit not only is necessary and all of those good kinds of things, but it's changing, isn't it, Sandy?
Oh yeah. And if anybody's not paying attention, please consider doing it. And because the disturbance in the force is so vast, the cracks of the universe are so profound. And it's not about something destroying us. It's about a time that is passing. And because of that, what we are familiar with is leaving us. And it feels like destruction, or it feels like a death, or it feels like the end of, and how do we, claw to the future. And I think what we're talking about, there's the goosebumps again, in the ritual of the moon, no matter, and we've taught this in the class that we're still teaching, and we've talked about it since we've known each other. The moon has been there since the beginning of the creation of Earth. So it is constant. It is a familiar sight. It knows its reality way before we have understood the phenomena of gravity and what the light and the sun, all that's there. I think it's radical that nature observed the moon and danced with it, planted with it, discovered how the moon brought the tides, made the tides work and function. And that wasn't out of somebody telling them. That's out of observation. And ceremony for me literally starts out of observation. I observe, I'm motivated to do something with the moon. It's not just, I want to be sacred and therefore I'll do this thing with the moon. I mean, I'm motivated, I'm called, I'm beckoned. I want the candle lit. I want to be sitting in it. I want to have it know I'm with it. I want to share it. How many times have you gone, oh my God, the moon's up, come look. It's one of those things we celebrate. And if somebody's around, it's like, look at it. One of the full moons out in Montana that is really one of the most radical things I've ever seen was when I went out to see it and the Northern Lights were there. They were it was front page news the next day. They were all the colors of the rainbow. It was active, and to have the full moon up, because I went out to see the moon, I saw the Aurora Borealis. There's joy. It brings an emotional stimulation. It kicks into that synapse of, it makes me smile. So ceremony is that place of connecting, knowing I'm waited for to connect to and with, and to know that in the presence of this, God, I'm having lots of goosebumps. I'm welcomed into a space. I'm not just hopeful there's a space I can belong to. That, I think, is the beauty of having ceremony in the moonlight.
And knowing that you've done it in many lifetimes, in many forms, and
over and over and over and over again. When I was lucky enough to be in Egypt, it was for the full moon, and my friends went into the great chamber of the big pyramid. My neck was out. I was in a brace. I couldn't go. I couldn't bend down. You know, it's like you've been up in there. And so I stayed outside and sat on the walls, on the stone of the pyramid, and got brave enough to know that I didn't want to sit at the entrance, because you have to climb up the pyramid to be in the entrance to the light and go into it. I stepped down and walked on the sand, just put my hand on the walls of the pyramid, and got to the corner and climbed up, and there was this stone that, when I sat in it, it makes me still want to cry, waited for me to sit there for 5,000 years. And then the moon came up. It's that kind of thing where I am lucky enough to say that I have such a profound relationship with the moon that I've been all over the world when the full moon has come to greet me and remind me that the places I'm in currently are places my life has experienced life in multiple lives, because it's nostalgic. What's the nostalgia you have for the moon, Dana?
Well, I have a lot of nostalgia for the moon, but I also have nostalgia for the sun.
Yes.
And sun rises and sun sets, but mostly I have to say it's sunrise, and sunrise with the morning star, Venus.
Yes.
For me, I have if we're going to talk about our spiritual relationship, our soul relationship in this way, mine is with the morning star woman. And knowing that when she appears in the sky in the morning, that the sun is getting ready to make an appearance. I love that. That is my favorite part of dawn, is to sit and watch her rise up, and then know that pretty soon the sun is going to just begin to peek over the horizon. And then it's repeated in the evening with the setting of the sun, and evening star woman shows up. So for me, my relationship with morning star and evening star is the greatest when it comes to cosmic relationships, beginnings and endings. And the hope that comes from seeing that star in the morning, the hope and the understanding that the sun is coming. And in the evening, for me, the evening star woman represents to me that, I made it through this day. And either giving gratitude, or I don't know what the hell just happened, but I lived through it, so I guess I'm happy for that, right? And knowing that in the morning she will reappear. in the East.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember that as a young girl growing up on the island of Oahu and going to the beach, the cabin at Waianae, and always in the morning getting up really early and watching that star, that bright star. Yeah.
See, being a product of Norwalk, Connecticut, sunrise was something that I didn't see on the horizon. The sun came up. We would see dawn, but I wouldn't see the sunrise. Too many trees.
Mm-hmm.
But there was always and I loved the skies at sunset and at sunrise. And so again, my childhood gives me the product of the sky. So I didn't see dawn unless I went down to the beach. But that was when I was making out, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
That's so, you know, you spend the whole night out at the bar drinking or whatever, and then it's like, well, okay, we're just gonna go down the beach and watch the sunrise. And you got to start somewhere. So, but what you're talking about for me is the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to see the color of the sky. And it was red sky at night, sailor delight, red sky at dawn, sailor be warned. It always kind of meant that there was something that was going to happen. And my father was a sailor. So that's the first time I understood sky language or sun language. And because I was not a mystical person as in my childhood, I was more religious. The sun was not worshipped other than the Son of God. So I didn't have that same connection that you have at that point. But the moon was that beacon. The sun became more significant to me when I got to California. And again, to see the sun in the sky at the same time the moon was, when the moon was setting or the sun was setting, or when the moon was rising and the sun setting, or I mean either or. It was like sitting on the beaches of Santa Barbara. You could actually see the sunrise as the moon was setting, or watch the moon rise as the sun was setting.
Mm-hmm.
And the sky was enchantment. Again, you know, sunsets in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, because you have those long stretches of desert. It's that place, and also the sky color. It was where the beings could be seen. You talk about this, you know, the star, the woman of the star. What did you call her?
Morning Star Woman.
Morning Star Woman. In Santa Fe, you actually see the dancing energy of the Native American tribes.
Mm-hmm.
You see the images of the fire. It's something you can't see with your naked eye, but when you look at it long enough and your eye starts to go into that place where you don't know what you're seeing, you see what is there to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Those shimmers are spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
And the ceremony that I do with that is always about humility, like the gratitude to be able not only to see, but to be witness to the fact that they exist.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Embracing spirit. It's not only about embracing, you know, spirits or discarnates or anything like that, but it's also about the spirit of, right? The spirit of all things. And I believe that for many of us, we're coming to a time, you and I talk, we have these great conversations about the new age.
Mm-hmm.
And
New age.
yeah, and metaphysics and all of those kinds of things, or versus antiquity.
Mm-hmm.
And magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that for many of us, this is a wonderful time of renewing our connection to magic In other words, the magic and the alchemy of physical and non-physical reality. And without the encumbrance of so much anymore, threat of violence or religion, all of those things that maybe have over the years or generations held us captive to not practicing our mysticism or our ancestral magic. Well, I believe that it has returned. It's here.
Yes.
And
I think it never left, but you couldn't play with it because you'd get shot, stoned, rolled over, buried, hung, and drowned.
yes, all of those things. And we're living in an astonishing time where embracing spirit means that we really do get to embrace it fully.
Yeah.
And that's not to say, it's a good thing to go running in the streets proclaiming that you're re-embracing your magic. But you know what I'm saying, that the psyche of spirit and the psyche of who we are, at least, talking about here in the States,
Right.
we're at a time where it's good. It's good.
Yes. And I believe, being a product of the New Age, that initiated something that allowed us to start having legal curiosity in all sorts of ways that started to socially be acceptable again. And the New Age didn't talk about magic per se. It talked about manifestation. It talked about inspiration. It talked about vision board. So it talked about magic without labeling it witchcraft or magic, even though some books were out there about witchcraft and whatnot. But the New Age didn't speak about that kind of title. You're a witch. That was kind of on the side. This was about you became a manifester. You became you became a seer, or you became somebody that could own the ability to intuit and therefore create your future. The magic that I'm feeling that is with us again is a really rich mysticism.
Yes.
And that mysticism was not really present in the New Age, Dana.
No.
I mean, I think that's worth talking about.
Well, for me, and you and I have talked about this a number of times, for me, when I hear, and this is just me, when I hear the words New Age, I also hear the words fluffy bunny.
Uh-huh.
Or what's the latest and the greatest?
Right.
Scheme.
Uh-huh.
I don't hear mysticism, because in the New Age, when I was teaching mysticism and writing books about mysticism, that was still equated with religion.
Yes.
And so I was known, and for some people I'm still known as a very religious person.
Right.
Because I've always written about mysticism.
Right.
But to your point, the New Age movement did introduce the concept of mysticism or magic in ways that were amenable or acceptable to the truly religious, or those who thought they were religious and are misinformed. But it began to reintroduce it.
Well, I think it's hysterical that the New Age actually thinks that it reintroduced Native American drumming. I mean, I say that with a very deep respect for, excuse me, what? And I can even tell you, I remember being out at Okamura, and hear the white people with their drums and dressed in Native clothing, fringe and whatnot, beating their drums and singing. And it was like, what the hell are you doing? And I could feel it. It did not feel like there was an honest honor to tribal history. It felt like the new gizmo.
Mm-hmm.
And so I give a lot of credit to the New Age, bringing back ancient forms of ceremony that got homogenized by white people being interested in it, sensationally making money off of it, as the tribal people were still denied to even be given credit that it was theirs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? Because you're in business. You're a tribal being.
Well, I agree. I agree with that, and it's really it's kind of a double-edged sword because on the one hand, indigenous practices belong, of course, first and foremost to the indigenous people of any continent, of any group of people, but so much of it has been forgotten or
Yes.
replaced with religion
Right.
that some of the people who have carried it on in the remembrance are non-affiliated with a particular tribe.
Right.
But so, to your point, it has also sparked an interest in tribal people to pick up the old ways again,
That is brilliant.
to make them feel safe. I mean, in this country, Native American people were not allowed to practice their own spirituality or religion until 1978.
That's insane.
And so there's a fear factor there. But it has sparked a re-interest for many Native people around the world. When we look at our Norse relatives, the schools to Odin that are reopening, the schools in the UK that are reopening, teaching about the old ways.
Right.
In order for that to happen, something else had to happen. And that something else that had to happen for any of us to be in this place of practicing deep mysticism is that the policing entities, right, the tribunals, the judge and juries had to step aside.
Right.
And a lot of people fought and bled and died in the course of history for us to be at the place of, as you call it, the next.
Right.
You know, when you and I talked about the fact that one of my grandmothers was hung by the neck until she was dead in the place that you were born.
That's insane.
Yes, in 1647.
That's insane.
And now as her, granddaughter, one of many. And I will converse with her about it and say, grandmother, I didn't know you. I didn't know your story, but you live in my blood and bones, and I'm here and I'm well. And you live through me.
Right.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom with me through my blood and through my bones. And in that, healing my ancestral lineage, helping her on her journey back to the ancestors. But a lot had to go on for this eighth fire, as it's called, to happen. So bits and pieces of reintroduction, integrity testing. A lot of people being tested in the realm of integrity. If you're out there walking it, are you talking it and walking it, or just talking a lot about it when you wanna? And the one thing that I will say, in embracing spirit, is that if you're not walking with it with integrity, the octaves that we're living in, I like when you use that term, octaves that we are living in, the repercussions of not being authentic are swift.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
I've had a duck a few times. And be brought to my knees a few times. And it's not about not being in out of integrity. It's about being reminded that everything has... Let me make this very clear. In Santa Barbara, I was starting a group called the Energy Bank. It was designed from spirit inside me to create a healing center. And I was driving down the road in my green Z, thinking, okay, God, what is it going to be called? And the word came, the energy bank. And it was one of those motivations inside me that was an inspiration from something bigger than me. It's not, I'm not, I'm not an ambitious person. I'm a diligent person, but I'm not ambitious. And so it wasn't that I needed to do this. It's not something that I thought I was going to do. But when it's put on my plate, it's like, okay, I'll do it. And the amount of ground that got covered to activate a community and gather it together and to have the quote unquote ability to interview people, talk to people, have circles about this is going to be the energy bank. It was going to be up on a hill, all this wonderful stuff. And all of a sudden, the lack of integrity came and just smacked me in the face when two people came up to me and said, thank you for creating this, but we're going to take it over because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to do this. It's like, what? And it was, well, if you want to do this, you go right ahead, but it won't be the foundation of what I have or been given. Because it was with the spirits that were inside me and the spirits that were beside me that had this inertia. And my neighbor, my very dear friend, when I came out and was saying what was going on and sat there and said, I can't share my spirits with them, or my spirits are not letting me share me with them. She said, Sandy, it's because you have integrity. And it's the first time I've heard the word addressed toward me. And I have to say, in all my innocence, I didn't understand it. It was like, what do you mean I have integrity? And it's that kind of a moment where somebody sees something in us that we don't know about ourselves, but we live with it. And it's kind of grueling to be a part of until all of a sudden somebody identifies what it is. And for me, and I see it in you also, that having integrity doesn't mean you get a better life. It actually means it may be a bit harder.
Todd's over here laughing.
What, Todd? Did I say something?
Oh, Lordy.
And I say that in the honesty of it hurts to have integrity because you don't cheat in that place as people are cheating you.
That's a great way to put it.
And you take the hit.
Yes.
And that kind of makes me gasp. So, yeah, Todd, I know.
We've been having
that, bro.
Oh, goodness. We've got a great group in the chat room, too. It's wonderful. Of course, Lily and Carla Joe, Tracy Civic, Lady Hawk. It's a wonderful group in the chat room tonight. And everybody talking about how they are ensconced in love with the full moon and Mother Moon, and sharing about, being in this time where I am who I am. And you can love it or not.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to be okay with that.
No.
At first.
No. So I'm going to hobble. I've got something going on with my ankles. So I'm hobbling to the back porch where you and Lily know exactly where I'm going.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to meet that moon and see if she's coming. I'm going to sit outside and wait for it. Oh, there's those trees. There's that skyline. And there's Clack. And the peepers. Welcome to Unicorn Fields, everybody. Do you hear Clack?
I do.
He's so busy. I don't know if you can hear the peepers, but they're there.
Aww.
So I'm going to sit here and wait for the moon. So ladies, and everyone that's out in the chat room, there's this place where we have all sat together in circle and all sat together in that desire to be in the light or to be a light in the dark. So let's talk about this for a second, Dana, because what's the difference about being the light in the dark or sitting in the dark waiting for the light?
Well, for me, being the light in the dark, personally, is my knowledge, because sometimes it's damn dark, right? Where we are,
Dark.
It's damn dark.
It's damn dark.
And when we're in that kind of dark, we have to know the strength of our light.
Yes.
And we have had to have been tested.
Yes.
To understand that kind of light. And to know that even if the physical body is extinguished in that kind of dark, the light continues. And that's not a leap of faith. That is a knowing.
That's a knowing.
That's a knowing. But we don't get to just know that.
No.
We get to know that after we've tested that theory a few times and people have helped us test that theory.
Or the theory tested us.
Exactly. And sometimes it takes great courage and the understanding that sometimes it's not about being martyred or being the victim or why me. It's because it is you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's that kind of light that's required in that kind of dark. In the damn dark.
In the damn dark. Now that's a book, Dana.
Yeah.
In the damn dark.
In the damn dark.
It's that beauty of knowing also part of the New Age in the beginning of the writings about it in the books, or the metaphor of the New Age will make you famous or rich. That was kind of the theme, that if you got it right, you got it right, and you were free from having to be touched by life. You kind of got the answers, and you didn't have to be involved with anything that hurt or made pain. And that is the great quote-unquote deception of how the New Age kind of laced itself in the beginning. And that damn dark is literally one of the great places in the New Age that brought us to the reality that you can't pretend to be sacred. You can, but sacred doesn't work with you when you pretend.
Or the wrong kind of sacred works with you. Yeah. Something dressed up as sacred.
Well, the damn dark does.
Yeah. Something dressed up as sacred will play with those that are playing with.
And they dress up well.
Oh, don't they though?
They, and I want to be able to say none of us are free of without somehow being seduced by it, called to it, tested by it, enraptured by it, or questioned by it. And that's where integrity comes in. It's like it brings you to the brink, but you have to find out at some point, no, thank you, or this is my lesson about what I am and what I'm not, or what is important and what is not.
Yes.
And it's the back to the ceremony of, I really would get ceremonial when I would be brought to my knees. I didn't know I had to do ceremony when I was happy. And, we're talking about as a teenager and as in my young 20s, that this was initiation with, if everything was going good, I kind of skid through my prayers. But if I was, come on, it was like skipping, and but if I was brought to my knees to pray, I realized that that's when I was really working with, this is real. I need to be more real with it.
That's when you started enunciating, right? And relishing the words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Slowing it down. Whether it was for something to happen, I'm scared, please come.
Yes.
For something to stop, please. And when I pray like that, it normally does have a very powerful emotion. And it's not always being fragile. Sometimes it's having more might and you're talking to God, or you're talking to spirit, or you're talking to the light, and just saying, get me out of the damn dark. And you say it differently, or to bring someone out of the dark.
Yes.
You and I have both gone to the brink and said, release that person from the dark.
Yes.
Done. I'm coming in. It's over.
Look out, y'all.
Look out, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Look out. And so there's that place with the integrity of also knowing not all fights belong to us, but when a fight does, it's on.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
that kind of prayer is have my back, because I can't be stopped from moving forward.
Yes. And as the Sarge used to say, kind of meant the same sort of thing. He used to say, hang on to your hat, because your ass belongs to the Lord.
Well, that's a good one.
That's one of the Sargisms, right? Yeah. So, yeah, we have all sorts of, well, Carla Joe is saying Reverend Jim Jones and David Koresh are coming to her mind, and Lady Hawk is saying thank you both.
Wow.
Yeah. So in this day that we're living in right now, and I've put it that I believe the magic is returning. It's returning to our planet. It's begging us through our blood and through our bones to be a vessel for it and a channel for it. And mountains have been moved out of the way. How have you noticed, let's just say since COVID,
oh, Jesus.
how the
God,
expression, how have the expression of your psychic gifts changed?
Wow, that's a great question. There is a no nonsense to it, and the veil is so fast that I believe. Bless you. Do you need some water?
Got it.
Okay. Maybe some wine. Todd.
Coptic communion time. That's what I call that. Coptic communion.
One of them there green bottles, Todd.
Yep.
It's instantaneous, Dana.
Yes.
I mean, I'm kind of in the awe of, am I thinking this, or am I with something that's thinking? And I think it's a bit of both, because the spirit is kind of walking through us at a different speed. It's with us at a different caliber. It's the veil is thinner than ever. My intuition is so keen that there's a place inside me that has to be a bit more quiet so that I just don't blurt it out. But the observation is pristine. In my healing work, I want to be able to say right now, today, I got overheated. I was mowing the lawn, and I went in underneath the fan and turned on Oprah's new TV show. Everybody, I recommend it. The Eye You Can't See. She has finally brought all this stuff about her spirituality or the New Age and all the yippee-ki-yays throughout the years to mental health. And as you all know, spirituality and mental health have been my banner. And to be able to feel what I've been feeling in people coming for healing or working with that place in their soul to really be allowed to exist, just really be allowed to exist. Everything you've been talking about being more authentic, being in the credibility of being able to do ceremony. Something is finally getting enough of the compressed energy of depression off of people and not have it be a quick fix or a drug or a stimulation, but that deep dive into the dark, into the damn dark,
Yep.
to find that light truly is our innate being. And so there's something about spirituality now that is healing the psyche so that we do not sit suppressed by being told we are not allowed to exist. That, to me, is what's coming out of the COVID, that our psyches slowed down. Something in our souls have been really having to look at what is love, what is our companionship, who are we with, what are we going to do, how do we do it, because we just couldn't be in the addictiveness of our routine. So I appreciate that just this week I'm feeling we can go out without a mask. Yeah, but not really, not quite yet. It's like where I go, I do and I don't. I can feel the vaccine in the vibration of the atmosphere. Can you?
Definitely. Most definitely. Yes. Because, the thing is that, just as, and this is just a conversation that I've had with my sister Barbara, and talking about the fact that the virus itself has a spirit.
Yes.
Right? It's an alive being.
Yes.
Well, so is the injection that's gone into some of our bodies. It's a live being. It is conscious. Yes. It is awake. Yes. It is intelligent. It is aware.
And so the coyotes are singing, so Ralph's going to start howling.
Aw.
I know. She just came running out, hair up, tail up.
That's right.
Okay. Yes. This is an absolute truth. People were saying, "Oh well, we get sick. I talked to my dose before I got it.
Mm-hmm.
So you saying that it's live? Say more about that. But I had that feeling. I'm going to bond with my dose, knowing that it's out there, and already talk to it about how I want it to interact with me.
Yes. And Tracy is sharing she prayed over her vaccine and didn't care what the guy thought. Yeah, exactly. Because, when Barb called me, and she had just been at a meeting with elders up in the Black Hills, Haisapa, and they were talking about the spirit, the intelligence of this particular virus, and that it's alive.
Yes.
And it is intelligent, and it wants, like every living thing, to survive.
Yes.
And the same thing for me when it comes to a vaccination, an antibiotic. We put an antibiotic into our body. That antibiotic has an intelligence. It is a living thing.
Yes.
And so too with this vaccine, like all vaccines, it is a living, intelligent being.
Yes.
And the more that it is grounded on the earth plane with us, the more it is alive in the atmosphere, as you put it. And so, yes, I can feel that. I feel it within my body. And I didn't have adverse effects. A little bit of being tired, and maybe my arm was sore, but and I'm not shaming or blaming people who did. Because we all have a body, and it all, everyone is individual. But I realized that I was allowing something intelligent to enter my body.
Exactly.
No different than when I'm having surgery and morphine is being put into my body.
Right.
That morphine or epinephrine or, whatever we're putting into our body, it alchemizes. It's an alchemy. It's alive. It's intelligent. That's why it's able to do something.
And it does what it does.
It does what it does.
When I fell from the horse and they shipped me off to Lebanon, when I was being pulled out of the ambulance, they were right there at the door and literally said, "Okay, we're going to give you morphine." And I said, "Wait a second. Before you give it to me, tell me what it's going to do." Because last I heard about morphine was when my father was on the morphine drip, and it took him to his death. It escorted him. It brought him peace. And they talked to me about it. And I said, well, my body has to know what goes into it before it just happens. Because my body wants to know. My body is intelligent enough to not just randomly take a drug. I mean, it was back in the 60s when LSD was going around. My body literally said to me in voice, don't do it, because that'd be dark. That'd be damn dark.
Yeah.
And I never, ever, ever took LSD. Thank God I didn't get laced with it. I got angel dust, and that was something. But the intelligence that you're talking about is really so, and it's a friend. The vaccine is a friend. So I'm sad when I hear people say that they won't take it because they don't trust that it would befriend them.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say something about that?
Well, even in, my own family with my kids, some of them are, rolled their sleeves up, and others have said to me, it ain't happening. I am not doing that. And, even, having just a discussion, a medical or a scientific discussion with them, there's something within their own psyche that needs to be settled before it can enter somebody's body and be okay. If the thought in the mind is that I'm going to be harmed by this, then probably you're going to be harmed by it. It's like always expecting to get the crappy waitress at the restaurant, right? You're always going to get that. So it's the law of attraction. But so in my own family, there have been those that rolled up the sleeve, others that have said, Ma, good on ya, but it's not happening here. And so the best that I can do is just to understand or try to understand.
Right.
I even had a client come to me because it's funny how people assume things about us, isn't it? He came to see me he assumed that I am an anti-vaxxer. He assumed that. And so he came to see me because he was so concerned that his children wanted to be vaccinated. And he was looking for an ally. And so in full disclosure, he and I talked about the fact that I was fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
And he was shocked.
Wow.
And I didn't malign him for his thoughts and his views and his perception, because everything's perception.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it is alive. And for me, and this might sound really kooky. And so not
for you.
Yeah. So just bear with my.
I'll try to hang in there.
Just bear with my little kooky thought.
Okay.
Is that maybe this vaccine is part of the next in our heightened awareness, or the next in our evolution?
I don't believe you're kooky at all. And
because Sandy, I just want to say, what has struck me in my thought pattern with that is that the young kids don't need it. They haven't needed it.
Right.
So what are the young ones coming onto this planet with that we older ones don't have?
Exactly.
But that's my thought. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, not at all. The fact that the atmosphere changes, that something about the climate change that doesn't exist has changed our planet radically, that the ice caps have melted, bacteria is being exposed, algae are being exposed, dust is being distributed, volcanoes are happening. There is stuff in the atmosphere that our bodies have not had to ingest for a whole long time.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever we have homogenized or kind of gotten away from, I mean, think about how old is penicillin?
Not very old.
Not very old. I mean, when I was a kid on Life magazine, the cover was all these young people in the iron lungs because of polio.
Yes.
And to have the vaccine in the 50s for polio be something that, finally, and now there's a society, you don't even have to think about it, or there's something about the intelligence about nature. The way I described it was Ramses and Moses. When Moses went to Ramses and said, "You've got to let us go." No, 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 no. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, something's coming and the firstborn will go. But if you put the blood of the lamb over the door, that was the vaccine. That the first one wouldn't die. And so there's something about the vibration of this freedom. What is the freedom? What is the freedom that we're coming into? And I truly believe we're being freed from the Piscean age.
Yes.
We're being freed from the enslaving of the feminine. We're being freed from the psyche of domination. And it's not going down easy. And something about this is, we will only know about it like in the next 10, 15 years, what it really has done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I am so sad of all the millions of people that were the sacrifice to it. It is sad. I am sad that there are people that got snagged by it or believed the lie that it wasn't really there. And then how many times, I can't even tell you. I mean, it's personal to me. My family didn't believe it, and Bobby's 9 people in one house got COVID. Knock on wood, nobody died.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that place. And when I heard that Bobby had it, I wailed. A sound came out of me that was a creature of, "You fucking idiot." Look, that anger of how dare you go and be reckless.
Mm-hmm.
And, and you have to let go.
Right.
You have to let go.
And, whenever there is the damn dark, there are also the gifts that come out of the dark.
Yes.
And in my practice, in my practice, one of the things that I've encountered over and again, particularly with my clients who are in the medical profession, because of the massive amount of death that most people here in the West do not like to look at.
You can say it again. Massive.
Massive. We've been forced to look at death.
Yes.
And large numbers of death. For instance, a young woman who just began her nursing career, and in her first year of nursing, in 1 week, had to unplug 5 people from their life support. 5 people in 1 week by herself. The doctors were so busy.
Stress.
That is traumatic.
Stress.
The
Yes.
question was, or what came out of it, the mysticism that came out of it was this question: Denise, what am I feeling at the time that the patient takes their last breath? Because something is happening.
Yeah.
And they don't train you in medical school to know what that something is. But every time I had to be the one to pull the plug, I felt something. And I know what I felt.
Yes.
And at that point, the conversation, and all of my clients who have brought this up, who have never really talked about death,
Right.
with every one of them, I shared with them that moment of death is sacred.
Yes.
And they had a sacred contract, or a sacred, well, I guess contract maybe, soul contract with that person, that they would be with them at that time. doing sacred work, not just medical
Exactly.
work, but sacred.
Exactly.
So my question for them was always, so what did you do when you felt that?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that was to you. And some of them would say to me, well, I prayed, or I talked to the spirit of my patient, or I talked to my angels to help this person. So in all of this, one of the gifts is the conversation about the sacredness of death and life.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. The first time I ever experienced someone dying was my father. I have experienced people who have died at funerals, but I've never experienced someone dying. And I think that those who work with hospice, those that work in the hospital, do have the quote unquote need to be allowed to be seen as administrators of sacred energy.
Yes.
And not just be made as a clinical, put the sheet over, call the death, and walk out of the room. Because the ether of the person who has just transitioned is free in the room, having a reaction and an experience.
Yes.
And we are in it. It is not something that is abstract. I've got shivers all over me. It's not something that's nonplussed. When my father passed away, the second he stopped breathing, the room was filled with the sweetest fragrance I have ever felt or smelled in my life. And before that, it was filled with death. The air from his breathing, the smell of his body, it all stopped, and a mist in the room appeared. So there's that place also with what's going on with the pandemic, is that in America alone, I think I'm kind of start crying. Without even knowing it, that sensation was happening so rapidly on a daily level at such quantum numbers that it was affecting all of us and we didn't really know it.
Yes.
That these souls were just congesting us in the ether with their transition.
Yes.
And it's something that we all need to be able to know that means their ether, their spirit, their soul has been whispering to us and giving us information that is about the next, or is about this is what's going on. And it's more than politics, or I'm old, I should die, or you can't get to me, I'm lonely. It's like not everybody can get to a loved one, but we can't think that doesn't mean we're not loved.
Yes.
It makes love different. It made us bigger people. It made us stretch beyond. If I can't touch them, then is my love real? If I can't say goodbye to them, do they know I love them? All those things are horrific things to think you have to have doubt about. But something in the pandemic is giving us that vitality to know that the breath of life is bigger than a wall. I knew people died when I was in Europe when they were in America, because they come to us. We go to them. There is no separation at all. And if there's anything that I hope and pray that the psyche of the pandemic has done, is to bring us closer to the reality that spirit is bigger than we can even imagine. And that death is not dying. And we have been scared to die.
Yes. And scared to live. For some people.
Petrified to live.
Right. And so the other side of that coin is that now all of a sudden people are saying, after the last 18 months, I'm living.
Exactly.
I'm not putting off that trip to Jamaica. I'm not putting off that facelift. I'm getting that tummy tuck. And I am going to live. I think that's pretty magnificent.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Let
So,
there be light.
let there
And
be
they're
light.
finding out that if their marriage isn't working, they're ballsy enough to leave it. If they realize that they're not involved with the person that they're involved with, it's like, this is over. What was I thinking?
I have clients in their late 60s and 70s and late 70s who are coming to me saying, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. Yeah, the divorce papers are going to be served next week or what have you, because what I've learned is that I can't do this anymore. I need to live. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I flipped that coin with it brought Bobby and I back together in a way that we have been fighting for and with probably for the past 10 years. Game over.
Mm-hmm.
Game, the whatever the reality of life and death was, and the embracing of the cocoon. You know, it's hard to live with me.
No.
There was no escaping.
Uh-huh.
And nor was there any running away. I mean, the universe brought us back together. It wasn't that I love him that he got back into the house. It wasn't that he loved me. It was that damn COVID that it was like, wait a second, if I'm going to be safe, we need to figure this out right now. Get back here. Get into the house. And I have to say that this is the first time I'm saying it the way that I'm saying it, is that what did the COVID thing do to me personally? It saved my marriage. Because it was a life death. You can't be out there and eventually come home or eventually leave. We need to do this if we're going to do it. And we had like a week to figure it out to get in the door. And everything got locked down.
Wow.
And then once we were in the door together, then it slowly, it took its time. It wasn't like, phew, made it. It was like, now what the hell? And it figured itself out. And so who I am is I am not angry. Who Bobby is a sober man who's found his soul. Who we are as a couple is grateful that we fought for and now have really a love that is without question. And so that disease, that vaccine, that COVID, that life and death is about figuring out love in many, many ways. Life and how we want to live it. So, God bless.
Mm-hmm.
And it was global. I think that's what's so important to say. It was global. It wasn't a cultural thing. It was not fussy at all.
No. Well, Sandy, with that, we are past the top of the hour. So great conversation tonight about embracing spirit.
Yeah. Well, it's always good hanging out with y'all.
That's right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight and for being you and being the light in the damn dark.
Being the light in the damn... Okay, so howl at the moon, everybody. Happy full moon. Good night, everybody. I love you all.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.